Howdy, y'all. Which nobody's here, so the only people who are going to hear that are ones that watch after. But I am Big Country. This is Big Country WV. And here's a segment that we haven't done here in a while called Tobacco Talk. And I'm sitting here, it's New Year's Eve, just chilling out here at the house. And I'm hoping some people pop on because I don't really have a set of things to talk about. So we don't know. I don't know what this is all going to be about. Hold on a sec. Take one. Okay, and I'm back. Oh, golly. I had originally planned on starting it right at 7, and so I had set an alarm, and I forgot to disable the alarm. We're smoking Game Leaf White Russians tonight. I've already had one this evening because it's New Year's. And I'm going to welcome the new year the same way I've lived the old year, with coffee. And tobacco. It's good coffee. My little ashtray. I'll give it another minute or two, and I'll probably just start rambling. I figure most people probably have their New Year's parties and all of that. Now, getting lit, but this is the only lit that I've got going on right now. So, it's good. For a cheap cigar, they're not too bad. They're no Romeo y Julietas, but those are good. I love the Romeo y Julietas. Okay. Let's see, what are we going to talk about here? I was just kind of hoping that I had somebody pop on, and they might pop on. And we have the dog who has decided to come join me. I don't normally smoke in the house. Actually, anymore I don't really smoke that much. Can you tell? I've got a slight cough anyway, and this doesn't help. But it's New Year's, and I'm on my own. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to drink my coffee and smoke my cigars. And the dog just laid on my foot. So this evening, for dinner, I made something that had potential. It didn't turn out that great, but it did have potential. Is I took a unleavened bread recipe, excuse me, and tried to make it a lower carb version of unleavened bread. The unleavened bread recipe was, I mean, it literally full. Oh, excuse me. Flour, water, salt, olive oil. Okay. Well, I cut the amount of flour in half and replaced it with almond flour because I'm trying to do the keto thing, although I've kind of cheated the last week or two. I've still been trying to keep the carbs down. But anyway, it's not no but anyway, I replaced half of the actual wheat flour with almond flour. And I laid all that out, baked it, and then basically turned that into a pizza. And if I had baked it just a little bit longer before adding the toppings, and if I had better toppings than what I had, it would have been really good. The bread on its own would have been really good. But I was trying to turn that into a meal. And it wasn't too bad. But the bread itself would have been really, really good. And once I get the kinks kind of worked out in that, that'll be one that I'll probably cook in front of you guys. Because I do have intentions of doing that. Like have my own little cooking show. Cooking with Country. I think that would be good. So, plans for the new year. Because it is New Year's Eve. Well, my plans, I've got all kinds of plans. But me personally, I'm kind of in a position where I can only make so many plans that are concrete. Provided the divorce goes through well, as can be expected, my plans involve a wood stove. They involve some fencing. They involve some new garden spots. Moving some garden spots. possibly they involve more birds, and they involve work on my actual house. For those who don't know, I have a actual house that is gutted. I've done a lot of work to it up until this point. Like there had been a lot done to it, but it's sitting there gutted, and it's sat there gutted for way longer than it should have, for various reasons that I may get into at a later date once all this stuff is settled. But so I'll be working on that, and I'll be having a wood stove here where I'm currently living, because I'm currently living in a garage apartment that is on the property as well. Um, which, for a single guy and his dog and cat, it's not bad to be in here. Like, even for two people, it wasn't bad, or it didn't have to be bad. But the thing with having such a small space, and really this isn't that small space, like it's pretty decent sized space. But when you have a smaller space than like your standard, house, you have to be very, very clean and organized in order to make it livable. People with the tiny houses, that's how they make those work. You've got to be clean. You've got to have a place for everything in its place, and that's just the way it's got to be. But those are my personal plans after I get through all of that. Yeah, so those are my plans. But anyhow, that cup's empty. Good thing I have a spare. I'm gonna have this place stinking here by the morning with the stale tobacco smoke. So one bad thing. That's why I don't smoke I don't smoke often anymore. Like this probably been the first cigars that I picked up in a few months. And it's probably been about that long for me in pipe tobacco. But after she left, I had some. I was smoking it in here just because I could. because it's my place. And she was gone, and I could smoke here. And but I don't want to have the interior look all gray and stained, and or not gray, but yellow and stained like it does in houses where people smoke all the time. I don't. I'll tell you this: when I get into, provided everything goes along okay, the way I'm hoping it does, when I actually get into my actual house, there's not going to be a white wall. There's not going to be a white floor. Nothing. Because it just shows everything. Like, okay, clean? Good. You want to be clean, But with white walls, white door, white floor, white anything, it just shows every little bit of dog hair. Of course, my dog is black. My cat is black and gray, Tabby. Well, she has some orange too, but she's actually a pretty cool colored up cat. But so the hair just shows, and it's so obvious. It's like, I'm not going to put anything white in that house. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get anybody on here or not. But, like I said, it's New Year's Eve. People are going to be out there at their New Year's Eve parties, and that's cool. So, I am having my own New Year's party with my coffee. And once I get off here, once I get off of here, which I don't know when that'll be, but I'll sit here and drink my coffee and smoke my cigars and maybe watch some Red Dawn. I see. I did have somebody on there, but I'll smoke a whole pack of these things in one night. How about predictions? Let's do some predictions. And if anybody comes along behind and watches this after, gets uploaded, forgive the random, just me sitting here and yammering. But what do I predict for the coming year? Because that'll be leading up to 2024 and the presidential race. I look for our dollar to continue to decrease in value. I look for more talk about a digital currency. I expect that. I do predict this new thing going on in old China. I predict that it will make it to the U.S. And I predict that it will be hyped up as much this is the last one. Whether deservedly or undeservedly, those are a couple of my predictions. And I think that things are just going to continue on going downhill for our society as they have been for quite a long time. They will try and push more and more and more of this transgender nonsense. And they'll try and push it on our kids. There will be more, and I'm not saying this to give this any power, but I think there will be more attacks on the power grid. I think that will continue. And I think that it will be blamed on conservative, Christian, right wing, whatever, in the media, which I don't buy that for a minute. But I think that's going to happen. And I think that the price of everything is going to continue to go up. I kind of, I have a feeling, and it's just a feeling, so don't get all scared and panicky or anything like that. I don't have any, divine insight. But I have a feeling that we will see diesel fuel at or near $10 a gallon by the end of next year. It will not surprise me. I could be wrong. It's just a kind of an idea, just kind of a feeling, a prediction, I guess you could say. I got her put in place now. So let's see, where was I? My predictions, as I get this thing lit again. So I think we'll see $10 a gallon diesel by the end of 2023. And that's just a feeling. I don't have anything necessarily to substantiate it. I don't know. I think that the war in the Ukraine, I think it'll continue. I think that there will be a lot of saber rattling. And could that involve us on a bigger scale than we're already involved? It could. but I don't think, I don't necessarily think that it will. And I could be wrong, and I hope I'm not. I hope I am not wrong. So it could just be some wishful thinking, but I don't think that we're going to up our involvement any more than we already are. Um, it is a possibility, though. I think that civil unrest is going to get crazy, like it was, like it has been in past years. I think there will be something that's used as a catalyst, and maybe it is the power grid. But I do think that civil unrest is going to continue. And I think it'll get worse in big cities. All I'll say for that is there's a lot of farmers with shotguns between the urban areas and me. So, you know, location, location, location really matters on that. I look for me to stay out of major cities in the coming year. There's another prediction. um, but, and maybe we can go, back now, at the end of the year, if you know, things haven't just completely flown off the rails, and see how much of this nonsense I've gotten right. I think with the what's coming from China, what I think is coming from China, or will be coming from China, or they'll certainly say that's where it came from anyway. I think that there will be a new push on people to get things in the arm. I think that'll happen. And I don't think that, I think that there will probably be an attempt for lockdowns. If not for that particular event, they will be trying more climate lockdown stuff in certain parts of the world. Whether that'll hit the United States or not, I don't know. It'll probably hit places like New York and California. I think that that'll happen this year. They'll certainly attempt it, to which I say, just say no. Just say no. It's like with the on the face. I just said no. Now, I had to wear it at work, because hey, my paycheck. But I did that for a little bit, and then I ended up quitting. And a lot of guys just ended up quitting, wearing them, because that gone it. It had been going on for too long, and we were tired of it, and we're like, this isn't working. So, everybody's still getting sick, and so we said, screw it. And so I look for me to have that exact same attitude. Have that guy that went into the store without one and got stared at and got those dirty looks from people and just smiled at him. Like, hello, how are you? So that was kind of my reaction to it the last time, and that will be my reaction to it if they try it again, which I think could happen this year. If that comes from China, which I anticipate it to come from China, or to make it here from China, need Ashtray. Oh, good. But I anticipate that. Thank you for the one like, whomever is actually on here. Um, so anyway, that is some of my predictions. I do think that things will continue to get really bad in the third world. I think that the BRICS trade deals, the trade agreements between, what is it, Russia, China, India, Brazil, and South Africa, I think, and probably a couple of other countries. I think that that is going to get stronger as we continue to get weaker economically and, well, in a lot of other ways. And I think that they will develop their own dollar, whatever they will call it. They will develop their own currency. And I do think it will be gold backed. I don't think that they're going to do the Bitcoin type currency, digital currency. I think it will be gold backed. Saudi Arabia, I think they're trying to get in on that too, because the petrodollar is on its way out. And I think gold is going to be what they go to. Now, I don't know that they'll get full on to that point by the end of 2023, but I think that it will happen. I think things will continue to march into that sphere. Um, so, what do we do about all of this stuff that I'm predicting? If it should come to pass. Well, okay, there's going to be a tax on the power grid. I really think that's going to continue. So, what do? You make sure that you can withstand an attack on the power grid. Now, are they going to, whoever is doing this, are they going to scale this up and cause more severe damage? I don't know. Although I do think that with the way that the system is, it is kind of, I think it could lead to like a death by 1,000 cuts sort of deal, where, okay, we're using up our stock of repair materials, and oh, now we're running out of stock of repair materials. People are going to, your linemen and your electric company guys, they're all going to get burnt out. Just like everybody's getting burnt out. Everybody that's working is getting burnt out. And because you've got half of the people that are being expected and trying to do what everybody else was doing and having to do it in a position where, okay, I don't know, just with everything going on, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to have the materials needed to do my job. I don't know if I'm going to have a job, 6 months from now. I don't know what's going to happen. And so everybody's getting burnt out. Like, you can feel it, I can feel it. But what can we do for the power grid? Well, rely on it as little as possible, or have alternate plans for when the power goes out. This means things like wood heat, propane heat, natural gas heat. Even though natural gas is tied to the grid, and natural gas could go away just like power can. It could very easily go away, but have multiple plans for things like heating your home, cooking your food. Um, what are you going to do when it's the middle of the summer and your power goes out and it's 100 degrees outside, and you don't know when the power is going to come back on? Because they said, oh, it'll be an hour. Oh, no, now it'll be, 5 hours. Oh, and then 5 hours happen, and they say, oh, it might be my next morning. Um, which that kind of junk happened to me not too long ago. Happened to me the night before deer season this year, before the main rifle season came in. Um, Although it wasn't 100 degrees or anything, it actually got pretty cold that night, but not nearly as cold as it did last weekend. Um, so, so how are you going to, in that case, keep your food from spoiling that's in the fridge and the freezer? Do you have a generator? Have you checked it recently to make sure that it fires up and runs? Have you checked the oil? Have you checked to make sure that you have all the appropriate cords needed to run said generator? Have you checked how much fuel do you have? That kind of stuff is going to go a long way. And my plans for this year is to rely as little on freezing and refrigeration as humanly possible. I'm going to start going through my freezer at some point and just start thawing stuff out and putting it into mason jars and pressure canning. Because to be perfectly honest, not necessarily this year, but I think in the coming years, the electricity is going to go away anyway. If not, the electricity goes away completely. The electricity, I think, is going to get so darn expensive that you can't really afford to run it very often. You might use it to run a few things, but I think that the electricity is going to get so expensive that you can't use a whole bunch of electricity. You can't afford it. So the least amount that I'm reliant on electricity, the better off I'm going to be. So that's something that you can really work on. Is not necessarily to that level, but just in general. Take this and do with what you will. Do with it what you will. The decline of our dollar and the rise of, I believe, the rise of a Russian, China, etc. backed, gold backed currency, which will destroy the value of the US dollar. What I think that's going to do, well, they're going to try and implement a digital currency. So, what do we do from there? One, get out of debt. Start working on that. Invest your money into tangible items. Gold, silver. Yes, I mean you can do some of that. Food, tools, medicines, things like that. Um, so I think that is going to be, I think that's going to be our best way to combat that, is to try and get out of debt and try and keep your currency in more tangible goods than anything. And go through and look for expenses that you can cut. You know, look for how to save money. You know, what don't you need? Which people are doing that anyway. Do you need to run to Starbucks? Do you need to get that bag of chips or that Monster at the gas station? Do you need any of that? You know, on a regular basis. I am astounded at people, and of course, you know, I'm smoking cigars with cheap cigars, and you know, I rub snuff and drink coffee, but so take that for what it is. You know, I don't do the cigar thing on a regular basis. But what things are you doing that you could do less of? Are you going out to eat all the time? It is amazing what going out to eat costs you. Like, it's amazing. Like, even fast food. Fast food's not cheap anymore. So, you can look at things like that. Do you really need a phone bill and an internet bill? Do you? And you do that talking, you know, you do that reasoning in your head and see, okay, well, for some people, it makes perfect sense because of the data and you know, well, I've got to do all this stuff on the computer. But for someone like me, it makes no sense to have internet and a phone bill, because my phone bill is less than $50 a month, and I get unlimited internet on my phone, and I don't have to do a whole lot of stuff on the computer. Hey, LA Prepper, how you doing, man? I'm just sitting here smoking cigars, drinking coffee, and rambling on. Uh, yeah, I mean, you know, things like that with your expenses, you can look at what to do. Um, you know, maybe relocation. And I'm not necessarily like saying going from a one state to a completely different state. Um, yeah. Well, I'm living by myself as well at present. Um, well, with lots of animals, but I'm, you know, my mortgage. I have a mortgage and internet bill, or I mean, a cell phone bill, internet bill. One good thing is I don't have a water bill, but I do have an electric bill. And this last cold spell made my electric bill go up. Yeah, it went up about $60 from what it had been, and that's pretty insane, you know, for me. And I live in a very low cost of living area, but I'm also not a very high wage area either. I I think at least a couple years ago, West Virginia was listed as the state. We were the state that required the least amount of annual income to become a homeowner. Like, and they determined through several factors that I think it was like 20, if you made 2,600, or not 2,600, 26,000 a year, or maybe it was like 23, like 23,000 a year, you could own a home in West Virginia. And that has probably gone up, but I don't know what it is now. That was pre 2020, and the price of property just went sky high there for a while. It's kind of come down now, but we had a lot of people relocating out of places like New York. I saw a lot of New York license plates there for a little while. And I don't blame people for that one bit. Like if I lived in a place like New York with what they were trying to pull and what they are still trying to pull, like I'd have tried to get out too. Like I would have left. I'd have left a long time ago, though, to be honest with you. Um, but I don't pass judgment on anybody for staying where they're at or not. But yeah, the bills. Some bills you just have to have, right? If you've got a vehicle and you need a vehicle, then okay, you're going to have your upkeep of that vehicle. You're going to have the insurance for that vehicle and the gas for that vehicle. That kind of stuff you have to have to take it on the road, and annual licensing and all that kind of stuff. But uh, but there are things like I mentioned with the stopping at the gas station. Oh wow, yeah, I'm just at the one. I'm just at the one vehicle. But like all of those different vehicles, if you own them outright and you're not paying, I would say probably like the motorcycle, you might want to have that because of the anticipated, the price of fuel. And if you're still out in, ouch, I just cut myself on a piece of glass. But yeah, if you're still out there in California, I can only imagine what you're paying for gasoline. Oh, okay. that that makes sense. Uh, but yeah, if you're still out there, like I could only imagine. A fast death toy, huh? Uh, but hey, some of the countries I've been in, like the amount of stuff that people are able to haul on them little bikes and scooters is absolutely insane. I don't blame you for that a bit. Um, but with the price of fuel, I mean the price of fuel here is ridiculous. And I know you guys pay a lot more in fuel than we do. Like I'm paying, I think it's about 430, 410, depending on the day, between 420 and 410 a gallon for diesel. Okay, for regular, yeah, you're about double of what you're paying for regular gasoline here. Um, yeah, it's at least a dollar and a half cheaper here for just regular unleaded. Um, and yeah, that's insanity. But I mean the price of your fuel is tied to the price of everything else. I mean, the more that it costs to fill up the trucks to haul the stuff, the more they're going to have to charge for you to buy the stuff. Um, so, I mean, I think diesel will probably, by the end of this this coming year. I think diesel will probably be about $10 a gallon in some parts of the country. And if considering like my area, we're not the cheapest on fuel, but we're not, like super crazy compared to, place like California and New York, what they pay for fuel, or what you guys are paying for fuel. But if it gets $10 a gallon here, you'll probably be, for diesel, the guys out there filling up trucks, their big rigs and stuff, hauling stuff, are probably going to end up paying, $15 a gallon just to fill up their trucks to haul stuff with. And I mean, the price of everything's going to go through the roof, which, couple that with our dollar not being worth as much as it was. I mean, it just really inspires me to cut costs where I can, and which as soon as I get through my divorce, I'm going to quit this again. Right now, it's kind of just what I've got. So as soon as I get through that, I'm going to quit snuff again. But yeah, your fuel cost is tied to everything. But yeah, I mean, if you can, but if you own the vehicles outright and you're not making payments on them, then whether you register them or not, you've still got them, and that's cool. But if people are owning a whole bunch of vehicles that they're making payments on, like, you don't need that. Now if you can afford it, then that's fine. I'm not, you can do what you want to do. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would want to own them outright. I have no intentions of taking on any further debt. Yeah. The house loan, I can understand people getting one, even in the current climate. Like, even knowing what I know now and thinking what I think now, and from, my faith standpoint and biblical standpoint, where, a debtor is a slave to his debt, and, we're not, we shouldn't be getting ourselves into debt. But like the house loan is one of those things that I could absolutely see doing. But if I had my whole life to do over again, I wouldn't have gotten married. At least not to who I got married to. I'd probably be married by now, to someone else. But I would not have bought this piece of property on a loan. I couldn't have afforded it outright, but I could have bought a piece of property with my down payment. I could have bought a piece of property that was probably considerably smaller than that, and I could have built on it. And that, I think, like, if I had to do all over again, I think that's where I'd be. But I can't go back and do it all over again, so, provided everything works out, I'll be paying off my mortgage. Car was 11 grand, okay. With half back in, oh golly. Go back. Let's see. Oh, golly, I'm sorry about that. Folks, my phone just straight up died on me. I just did realize, hey, I probably better plug this thing in. But so I'm back at it here. Thank you. They say car was 11K.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I've got buddies that have like all kinds of vehicles. It's like one of the guys that I I work with. I mean, he just straight up bought like a $5,000 car on a credit card. The guy has so much credit card debt, and like he will never pay it off. And I don't think he'll ever get it paid off because he keeps adding to it. He keeps saying, yeah, I need to save money. I need to not spend so much money and buy all this stuff. And he's got all these cool little toys, but he bought so much of it on a credit card. And it's, you can't, just can't do that. Like, that's a big part of the problems with this country. Uh, but, that's, I would not, if I didn't have any debt whatsoever, I wouldn't get in any debt. Like, if that meant that I had to live with my parents or, a buddy or whatever for a year or two and save up my money and, buy like a $30,000 house that was a fixer upper, which I can speak around here, like, yeah, you might be living in, in town and in a not great part of town, but you can still buy. Well, actually, not too long ago, they just sold a piece of property out my road. The house, it was on a very, very small piece of acreage. I would not have wanted to have stayed there long term because it didn't have enough property with it, and it was just right on the road. But they just sold that piece of property for about 35,000, and that was about 2020 time frame. Um, and yes, I would not. And if you're living with somebody and you're sharing your your bills and you're working full time, it is certainly possible to save up enough money to buy your own piece of property. Um, like I said, like that particular place that was there, and out here, like you can buy raw land. I mean, you can buy land for 1,000 an acre here still, and some land is less than 1,000 an acre. Albeit it's West Virginia, so most of it's going to be hillside. But there's flat spots. There are flat spots on it. It'd be good for if you wanted to farm and run animals, um, like or have a good little hideaway to go hunt in or whatever. Like you can still buy land here relatively inexpensively compared to a lot of the country. Um, but but yeah, and I believe it was one of them little YouTube shorts that I was watching, and I hate those things because you get sucked into them. They're little shorts, like you just get sucked into the reel of shorts, and next thing you know, an hour's gone, and it's like you just literally spent an hour listening to dribble, and so I hate those things. Um, you've spent an hour listening to pretty much nothing worthwhile, or very few things actually worthwhile. But this was one thing that this guy who was talking about like an Arabic friend of his who had he was in college, he was a student, and he was driving a Bugatti, which if that's what you want, that's what you want. And it was him and like all of his brothers. They had a house together, and they all shared in the bills, and they all shared in rent and all of that kind of stuff, and they all had their girls that were living with them, and you know wives, girlfriends, whatever, and they went out and they made money and they just pooled all their resources together. And so really the idea of you turn 18, you need to just go out. Like, I agree with to a point. Like, I agree with that concept to a point. Like, there's a lot of people that are my age, but they're, living in their mom's basement, and, mom still caters to them, like, and all of that. And, and I think that we should strive to be bettering ourselves, even if we do have to still live with our parents, or if we are living with our parents still. And this is kind of me. Like, the Lord blesses me with kids one day, and they turn 18. As long as they are working and saving up their money and contributing to the house, and live in my house under my rules, you're contributing by doing stuff, and you're saving up your money. Like, I can see that you are saving up your money and working. Then, like, I'm not going to kick you out and force you to go out and just become like a slave to debt. No, I want you to, work, get you a full-time job, or go to school to get a full-time job, whatever the school would be, trade school, or, if that would be college, whatever that would be. And, I want you to not be, well, I thank you, brother. There's, uh, yeah, it's kind of rough when you realize that you've wasted 9 years of your life with, yeah, my situation. Um, but oh, I'm sure I'll find, I'll find a good one. The benefit of having been married, for to who, to in my marriage, and for as long as I was, is, like, I know a lot of the things that I want to avoid. So I guess it at least I learned my lesson. Um, but um, but I want, I don't want the kid to, the child to be, a slave, like I currently am, paying off my mortgage. Um, and I just, that's, it's more important for me for them to not be in that situation. Because I think about, like, man, if I did not have to make, this mortgage payment every month, like, what could I do with that paycheck? Because it's about a paycheck for me every month, just goes to pay off of that debt. And it's like, and I just think of, like, what could I do with that extra money? Like, I could have so much done to this property with that extra money. Um, because just changing my life with her leaving and doing things that I want, I don't. Like, I take it back. I have bought lunch at a gas station before because, I woke up and I made it to work on time, barely, but I didn't have time to do anything else. So, like, I've done stuff like that, but, very, very few and far between. And, like, the amount to save up just in that short amount of time. Like, if I didn't have to make a mortgage payment, I could, like, all the things that you could do with that money. If you didn't have a loan, then all the things that you could do with that money. And, my dad, he's not as hardcore on the no debt thing as I am, but he had a really good piece of advice. Um, if you buy a car and you can't afford it outright, and so you're paying a loan on the vehicle, like, once you get that paid off, first off, pay it off as quick as you can. And once you get it paid off, you take all of that money that you would have been paying uh, on that loan, and you put it away where you can't touch, or where you won't touch it. You know, you put it away where you're not going to just spend it on the regular. Like, if that means you get it in cash and put it in a mayonnaise jar and bury it in the yard, or if that means you have it in a different bank account that's, you know, not attached to your regular checking account, you know, whatever that would be, you save it. And then by the time that it's time to replace that vehicle, you've got enough money to basically pay for your next vehicle. Um, and that, you know, I've seen people that have taken that advice and have went out and bought $60,000, $70,000 trucks with the money that they had saved away from following that advice. And I kind of look at that and say, well, if I didn't even have to make that payment and I just got into the habit of putting money away and putting money into tangible goods and you know, you need to have a little bit of savings, because right now we are using money, but you know, if you are just in the habit of saving money and in whatever the form that that would be, then when you need to go get something, you can just go get something. Um, at least that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Uh, but I mean, our dollar, and it is weakening. Um, whether it goes completely away or not, you know, it eventually will. Um, but we'll see. um, but you know, I'm after I get through this, I'm going to start really, really hardcore trying to get out of debt. And like I said, I don't have that much debt. Like, compared to what other people, you know, have, I don't have that much. Like, I have a mortgage, and then out in court, you know, I'll have a share of that probably that I'll have to. Um, but you know, share whatever it is, however it pans out. But that's, you know, that's step one, is getting out of debt, and then I can look at this piece of property and say it's mine. I got the deed in my hand, you know, uh, or it'll be as much mine as it can be. uh, so that's kind of where I'm at there. Um, let's see. See if I can get back on track here. Um, the golly. Um, let's see. Get myself back on track. So we talked about what we can do, or I talked about what, you know, what to do with the power. I appreciate you, brother. Uh, yeah, you know, most people are probably at parties and whatnot. I'm, but I'm just sitting here with uh, YouTube and the dog and the cat, she's off somewhere. Um, but you know, there's the yeah, me too. Me too. I don't plan on leaving this property here until the morning. Um, and I need to stay in. You got to stay in around here anyway. You've got to stay in until it's at least, a little bit after midnight, because there's idiots that get drunk and, like to go shoot guns in the air on midnight. Um, and it's just not, I mean, your chances of getting hit are pretty low, but it's not worth the risk. It's like, you know, guns and alcohol do not mix. I'm a gun nut, and you know, I like to have a beer or a glass of whiskey on occasion, but but guns and alcohol do not mix. Um, uh, but yeah, yeah, you gotta stay inside, or you might get shot. Somebody a mile away who's sitting there, drunk as drunk as a skunk, and it's like, oh, Happy New Year! Boom, boom, boom. Oh golly, but the yeah, the possibility of a conflict escalating with us here in the U.S. I don't. I think that it's going to be for 2023. I think it'll probably be just more of the same. I don't look for World War III to happen. Is it a possibility? Yes, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. Things might escalate a little bit, but let's say that they do. Like, other than general preparedness, trying to be away from large targets, like stay out of DC. I mean, because let's be honest, if they wanted to bomb something in the U.S., they probably would bomb a place like DC. They're going to hit, if they were going to do something like that, they would hit your critical infrastructure points for the running of the country. I don't really have any critical infrastructure points near me. Like, my state has a population only slightly larger than Columbus, Ohio, and so there's not a lot of people here, which is a blessing and a curse at times. But there's not, yes, are there targets here? Yes, but I would say they would be pretty far down on the list. Compared to somewhere like New York or DC. But I don't, come here, the hills have eyes, and everybody has a rifle and some camouflage. So, like, West Virginia, and the terrain is against any invading army. If which I don't think, we're not to that point. Like, our country isn't as we've still got a very powerful military. Like, even with all of the stuff that's going on, like, we still have a very powerful military. So I don't think they would try and invade us mainland. Like, I think they're going to continue to try and rot us from within, like they've been doing. These other countries, China and Russia, and and then people that are on the inside are going to try and rot us from the inside. So I don't really think that open conflict in the U.S. is not coming in 2023. Because, they're doing such a good job right now anyway. it would not be a smart decision, I don't think. So, there's probably a cloud or something, the wind blowing. But let's see if I can get it to work here. There we go. I think we're good here for a little bit anyway. I just had to move. wasn't holding my tongue right. But yeah, I think, you know, getting as self-sufficient as you can is going to be, you know, one of the best ways to solve that. And like, if you live in an apartment and you don't have a lot of property, and you can't grow like a big garden, do you have a front porch that you could get 5-gallon buckets and plant tomatoes? Or, you know, even if you don't have that, like, do you have a balcony, or do you have a window? Like, if you've got a window, you can grow stuff year round, you know, in the window. Grow some rosemary, some thyme, some of your smaller herbs, like a small herb garden. Again, is that going to sustain you, you know, where you're just going to live completely off of what you grow? No. But, I mean, I've got plants in my window right now. I'm trying to get some rosemary to come up right here in the middle of January. Middle of winter, almost January. Because I can grow food in that window year round. If I was so inclined, I can do that year round. And you can't grow most things here year round. There are some plants that I can grow pretty much year round. You know, there's some cover crop type things like beets and turnips that I can grow year round. And Jerusalem artichokes, I can't grow them year round, but all I have to do, if I get them started, all I have to do is go out and dig some up in the middle of winter. You just plant them and then dig them up as you use them. Which Jerusalem artichokes is something that I'm really, really excited about. My parents grew them this year, and they are a perennial that it's a lot like a potato as far as taste and texture. It's a little bit different taste, and it's actually a little bit healthier for you than just standard potatoes. But but yeah, it's a lot healthier for you than like your standard potatoes, and they come back every year. And you just dig up some, and if you don't dig them up, they will spread because they are an invasive plant. So if you have them in a garden and you don't dig them up, they will take over. But so I'm gonna plant some of those this spring, and you know, that's just one thing that I can plant and then just forget about, and just dig up what I want to dig up, and I'm good to go. Things like that, if you can do that, are great. You know, they don't really require a lot of care or upkeep. But yeah, grow as much as you can and put away as much as you can. And that kind of stuff, you know, buy the stuff for an extra oil change in your vehicle. You know, buy an extra belt. Like, you really, and I'm pointing fingers at myself on this one, like, you should have an extra belt for every vehicle that you've got. You should have an extra oil change for every vehicle you've got. If you can afford it, an extra set of tires, but like, that's an expensive thing to have extra stuff. Like, I get that, but you know, most of your stuff like that is coming from China, and if things escalate between us and China, we're going to have to go looking elsewhere to get that kind of stuff. And so the prices are going to go through the roof if you can even find the right part. So things like that we can do, that's kind of going to be, I mean, that's just basic preparedness kind of stuff, homesteading preparedness kind of stuff. Like, that's going to be how we can, weather if anything really, really escalates there. And something that a lot of people don't really talk about is getting to know your neighbors, getting friendly with your neighbors, meeting people, talking to people. Like that really, especially with 2020. And I can't speak for everybody's environment, where everybody's at, and, all of that. But people here, like when that all was going on, like nobody wanted to talk to anybody, and people, really, really just didn't want to talk to you. And it was kind of getting like that before, but and we're probably not as bad as it is in a lot of your bigger cities. Like, I have been to New York a few times, and I just thought it was so weird. Like, I could say hi to somebody on the street, and like they just wouldn't even look me in the eye. They just would just kind of walk by, like not even acknowledge that I sent anything to them, which might just show just how much of a country bumpkin I am, because that's kind of how big cities are in my experience. But getting out and actually getting to know neighbors, and not necessarily all your neighbors. Like, there's some people that you probably don't want to talk to. But communities coming together, like, you can't underestimate the power that has. I kind of remember, like, on 9/11, like, communities, and we can put conspiracies and stuff aside for that, but communities came together. Now, like, that was probably the last time that we were truly united as Americans, was when 9/11 happened. And we've never been united like that since. And a big part of that unity is community, and meeting people, talking to people, maybe evangelizing the prepared lifestyle to those people, in a way. Like, obviously you don't want to give away too much information to your neighbors, but, or anybody really, but you need to look at things in a way of, like, I may have to rely on these people at some point. Because, well, let's say you've got a bug out location. Like, there are going to be people around, and unless you just, like, live way up north in, like, Alaska or something, there are going to be neighbors. And you want to get to know those neighbors. You want to get to know those people. And I am not, hey bud, I am not even going to attempt to pronounce your your name. But welcome to the channel. Welcome to the chat. But yeah, I mean, the community thing is going to be huge, I think, in the coming year and coming years, and I think that's going to be vital. Because if we let them, whoever your them is, if we let them divide us and lock us away, hobbits are definitely prepper. Well, yeah. Okay, yeah. I understand what the name is implying now. Golly, I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings guy, but uh, but I could say that the Hobbits are probably definitely preppers. Like I've seen the actual movie, the Hobbit, the first one, and yeah, he had a pretty, living in an underground bunker basically, and had a pretty well stocked pantry, well, for himself. But so yeah, the Hobbits, I guess you could say they are definitely preppers. um, at least by modern standards, like most, well, other than the living underground thing, most people around here would probably, at least in the community that I live in, we just kind of look at that as like, wow, you got a good pantry. That's a nice pantry. I wish I had a pantry as nice as the one on the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings movie. Uh, but yeah, changing subject there. I'm actually in the house that I've got to fix up. There were 2 bedrooms, and one of the bedrooms is going completely away. I'm moving the bedrooms, and one of them, that room in and of itself, is going away and is going to be a kitchen, and the other bedroom is going to be a pantry. That is my plan. I'm going to have a bedroom that is a pantry, or a former bedroom that is going to be a pantry. It's going to be a huge pantry. I know I might put like a washer and dryer in there too, but mostly I think it's going to be pantry. I'm going to have like multiple rows of shelving in that room. A meat locker? If you got the money to put away for that, absolutely. Uh, Absolutely. I can't blame you there for that. Yeah, one of the big freezers, like a big upright, or one of the big, like, actual walk-ins. um, yeah, I mean, but I can a lot. And I intend on canning a lot more this coming summer and, this coming winter. Oh, absolutely. One of the big top loading freezers. That would be awesome. Uh, the In town, it's and I kind of remember like one of my last nights on ship, and I got talking to this gal that was on ship with me, a real nice girl, and I can't remember. I think she lived in a suburb of your area, and I think it was in around. It wasn't in L.A. specifically. Oh, absolutely, pickup. Um, yeah, that's the best way to buy beef if you can get in contact with a farmer who's fattening up beef and some connection issues. I live in a holler and a hill on the trees on that side, so it's like uh, I'm kind of limited. Like where I've been keeping it, my phone where I like to have it, I get pretty good signal because I'm right by a window there, but it doesn't work when I'm trying to use the charger. I've said this on multiple live streams. I need to get one of them little or build one of those little stands. But But yeah, you're going to get a better quality beef if you can actually buy one directly from a farmer. You know, and that's going to be the best option, short of doing it yourself. Because you could actually go out. You know, most farmers would not have a problem, and any farmer that would have a problem with you going out and looking at the cattle that they've got, that you're looking at buying, like, you don't want to deal with that guy anyway. To be honest with you. So most farmers are not going to have any problem with that, though. They're actually probably going to be excited because, you know, somebody is actually interested in enough in their is actually interested enough to want to actually come out and look at their livestock. But yeah, the solar idea and being able to have solar, if for nothing else, big and good enough to run, you know, a big freezer in case the grid goes down, or just in general, like, that's a great idea. That's actually, I want to get solar. I would love to be completely solar. It's, for me, like where I'm at now, it's not really feasible, but I want to at least get enough solar that I can run my well pump off of, which shouldn't require that much solar. I haven't done too much into it, because I've got a lot to go before that, and I've got plans on how to use my well if things go south for the long term. I've got a pitcher pump that I could set up pretty easily, and but it would be a pain in the butt to have to do that. You know, walk clear out there, you know, if I get water. But if I can set up a solar for my well pump, then even if the power's out, I've still got water. You know, that's one thing that sucks is about having a well. Now, where I grew up, the place I grew up at, it didn't matter. And we didn't have grid water growing up either. Not to the house. We had a spring, and it fed a reservoir on the hillside, and gravity fed down to the house, which our water pressure was horrible. But we had water. We always had, you know, we had water unless, you know, it had ran dry. We had water. But my dog is snoring now. Give it a minute and she'll start yipping, chasing after rabbits or something. But yeah, the solar idea is a great idea. You know, if even if it's just as a backup, but if you set it up, then you might as well use it. You know, you might as well use it, because, you know, I don't know what the price of electricity is out there, but mine isn't horrible, and I can only imagine it being worse, you know, out there in Cali, or California, or whatever people call it now. I had a couple of buddies from the southern part of California that always called it Cali, so. But they had to relocate. They had to move, and get out of there. And they're actually a lot closer to me now, but they're still too far away for me to just drive down and see them. But they are closer. But yeah, getting to know farmers is going to be, you know, whether you are a homesteader, prepper, or just somebody who wants the best quality of, you know, meat or produce that they can get. Like, getting directly to the source is going to be the best for everybody. You know, except for like the big companies that want you all to shop at Costco or Walmart. But, going and actually meeting with the person who was growing the cucumbers and buying the cucumbers from them directly, you're probably going to save money for the quality that you're going to get, and they're going to make more money than they would if they sold the cucumbers to a business, or like a grocery store. So it's really a win-win dealing with your farmers or producers directly. I make money selling eggs from my chickens. This year I also have intentions of starting a bunch of seeds and trying to sell the starts. And I think that could be, it's not going to be like a giant money-making thing, but it's going to make me a little bit of money. I'm starting the seeds anyway, so I might as well, try and start some eggs. And that's another thing with the economy, and is looking at extra ways to earn income. And for me, like, I'm looking at the land and what I've got, and what can I do with the land that I've got that I can make money at it. So it's like, at some point, and once I build the infrastructure for it, I'm probably going to run a few head of cows, or a few head of cattle. Get a couple of cows and just run them over the summer, feedlot them, in my own feedlot, and, sell them to people, like sell a half a beef. Or even if I just keep them over the summer, I can give them mostly grass. I'm not going to have a lot in feed. And then, I can sell them to someone who wants to feedlot them. That would be a way to make some extra income for me. Oh, but I got kind of distracted there a little bit, and I just remembered, the gal that I talked to, like, my last night on ship, and I told her about my piece of property that I bought and how much I paid for it. She's like, well, how much is there? And I'm like, so many acres. And she's like, what you paid for it? You are not, where I'm at, where I live, like, that will not even buy you, a quarter acre. She's like, that might buy you a quarter acre lot, like maybe with a house, but the house is going to need work. I'm like, geez, like, at the time, like, you could buy a pretty decent farm for that. Like, it was under $100,000 with many acres, like, a little bit under 50 acres. So that's something else to think about, is like, if you're moving out in the country, as you are going to get land, and it will probably be cheaper than what you're buying, in town. And like, I have no idea about the markets, the housing market, really anywhere other than here. And housing prices did go up, like, in the last couple of years. They will probably go down again, because of the interest rates going up. That will affect the housing market, but you can still buy land here cheaper than a lot of other places, and so you can buy country land. Now, it might involve a lot of work. It might not have, all the things. It might not have a nice house or anything on it, but you can still buy land for relatively cheap, if it's undeveloped anyway. Golly. set it up here. Nope. It's still way down. Oh, golly. But it is charging, though. That's a good thing. But, yeah, the housing market, I think it's going to crash again. And that might happen this year. So there's another prediction for you. The housing market might crash, which if you're going to look to buy, is going to be a perfect time to buy. It's going to be perfect time to buy is if the housing market crashes. But if it doesn't crash, then, or I mean, if you're looking to sell, then no, that might not be so good. But let's see, where next? Running out. Running out of stuff to yammer on about here for a minute. I think, yeah, I've been at it for over an hour here, so I'm probably gonna get off of here. I think that's a good stopping point. But anyway, y'all stay safe this new year. Hopefully, some of my predictions are, because my predictions aren't necessarily that great. Hopefully, some of my predictions don't come true, and things, hopefully things just get all better, and sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, and little puppy dogs. But I don't know. I know things, I think, are looking up for me, and I hope they're going to look up for you. But y'all stay safe out there, and y'all have a good one. And I know it's a little early, but Happy New Year. God bless.